Hello, everyone, and welcome to the HP Podcast, episode number 323. I'm Ben, and with me here today are the beautiful boys. As always. Not only always here, but always beautiful. We'll start off with Dave. Hello, Dave. How are you doing?
I'm okay. I'm good. You know why, Ben? I don't know if you've ever kind of put someone in place at work. Not like
Yes.
told off a boss or like done something that could have got you fired, but just everybody's got someone at work who kind of irks them, and you wait for that opportunity to kind of put them in their place and get a little firm with them and maybe show your frustration. Yeah, I had one of those moments today, so it
Nice.
was right at
Love
the
it.
end of the day too. So
Oh,
Yeah.
even
Were you
better.
right?
I think I was right.
Oh, okay, but it wasn't like a definitive slam dunk. Boom, here's the proof I was right.
Yeah, no, it was more like after the person backed off a bit, like kind of backpedaled, and that was like, okay, you kind of understand that. Anyways, yeah, I think I was right. I feel good.
You asserted your...
It wasn't like the black and white kind of rightness. It was more just like, you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah,
That's not your
yeah.
job. You're not my boss, kind of thing. So
I get that.
and they revert to the kind of like, oh, I'm just the messenger, and it's like that's not your job either. So
Right, yeah.
anyways, so yeah, I felt good.
I will say there's a satisfaction to just speaking your piece and being, even if you're right, but it's not like really clear cut. Like, but there's still a satisfaction to that. But there's a real satisfaction to somebody being like, the answer to this is no, and you can prove to them the answer to this is yes, or like a direct, like, is it a little bit of Schadenfreude? Is it a little bit of arrogance on our behalves? I don't know, but it does feel good to know I'm right beyond a shadow of a doubt here.
Big time.
That's a nice one.
It's a satisfying corporate slam dunk,
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Brandon, have you told anyone step off like Dave did today at work?
I do that almost every day.
Yeah.
The luxury of telling people what to do but not being their boss is really nice. Because I don't really care if they do what I ask them. I just go to their boss if they don't. So, it
You're
works for me.
You're the office tattletale then.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I work very hard to cultivate my relationship with the guys, so I don't really have to do that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But hey, look, you don't want to play nice. I don't really have to play nice either. I can really go by the book if I need to. So that's just kind of the way the cookie crumbles, as they say.
My favorite method of that too is like you go to somebody and really like you're saying something maybe a little more than you were told to say or led to believe or whatever, but you say it to them and then you do the thing Dave just said that guy did, and you're like, hey, I'm just saying what Jim said. I don't know, man. I'm just letting you know what Jim said.
Sure.
And then,
No,
like-
yeah, I do that all the time. I'll like ask them to do something, and I'll be like, well, I'm not your boss. And then if they don't do it, I usually ask like a couple times, right? I'm a very reasonable man.
Sure.
But after I've asked for a couple times, where it's been maybe, I don't know, a week, then at that point we kind of gotta get to stepping. You know what I'm saying? So,
Well, since you work in a glass factory, have you ever considered just shattering a piece of glass over their heads if they don't listen? I know you've
can't-
considered it.
I can't say I haven't. There's a non-net zero percent chance
Yeah.
that I've considered evisceration as a possibility.
Well, I'm glad you've never actually eviscerated anyone, to my
Some-
knowledge.
Sometimes self-evisceration as well. So, yeah.
Dave, I was thinking more about that, and as I said, there's nothing better than looking at someone and being like, it actually was yes, not no. There's nothing worse than realizing I'm wrong and I have to figure out how to get out of this now. That's a bad one too.
Yeah. I try to be really non-committal, especially when it's with things I don't know what I'm talking about. So, yeah, I don't like I'm okay with being wrong, but I that's why I never want to be in a situation where I'm like, I'm so insistent, I'm so sure of myself, whereas somebody comes by and is like, just so you know, this was incorrect, So
Yeah.
Sure.
gotta walk that middle ground a little.
Yeah. Asking for forgiveness is easier than
Exactly.
being, straight up asked about your wrongdoing. as far as I'm concerned. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's two things I've been doing lately. And when I say lately, I mean the last 15 years of my life. One of them is when you don't do something or you do something incorrectly, but like it was for a reason. Like I try to lead with like, this is not an excuse, but it is a reason that happened.
Sure.
Like,
Sure.
yeah, I totally didn't do that thing you asked me to do, and here's why. Like, so saying like, I'm not taking accountability for it. It was I screwed up, but I want you to understand the circumstances.
Sure.
And that usually like the reason I started doing that is because someone did that to me, and I was like, wow, I like that answer.
Right.
And then the other thing, well, this is not at all related to that actually, but this is about something specifically that happened to me yesterday at work. I'm trying to figure out how to say this in a really concise way. Last week, I was asked to like look over all this stuff, and I looked at it, and I made notes, and I sent off the notes. I have the evidence of the notes. But then this week, I looked at it with my boss, and I didn't have access to it. And I was like, "Can anybody else access this? I can't." And they were like, "Yeah, we can access it. Didn't you look at it last week?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I did look at it last week." They're like, "Well, if you looked at it last week, you should still have access." I was like, "I don't have access." It turns out in order to get access to that page I was looking at, I had to be part of this group, which I had been last week. Sometime it's like a Steam group. Sometime over the weekend, I was clearing out a bunch of Steam groups, and apparently I cleared out that one, so it revoked my access. But then I checked with like IT. But like today, I was like, guys, you probably thought I was lying yesterday, and you're still going to think I'm lying today when I say this. But I promise you, I was part of that group last week. I left it. I don't know if that's more embarrassing than just not having done it or not. Like the fact that I just like excluded myself from a piece of work, but I did it. I promise you, I did it.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And then you
Something
just
I
feel
also,
like you're digging yourself a deeper hole.
right. Something I also do as well often is cover my ass in excess. For a very small portion of time, my job was like questioning the amount of work I was doing. And so from that point forward, which was sometime at the end of, no, it was at the beginning of last year. It was at the beginning of last year. I started to literally every single thing I do in my spreadsheet. It never leaves. I have 5,000 or more entries right now, and I don't care. I scroll to the bottom every single day. But it's just like if you have any question as to what I'm doing, I can provide you a numerical value of how many things that I've looked at today, and that's not even my entire job. I can give you an exact number of how many I have today.
Brandon's like, his boss is like, "What did you do for 15 minutes between 10 and 10:30?" And you're like, "I was scrolling to the bottom of my spreadsheet."
And let me show you.
Item number 4,933, sir.
Yeah. I believe we're definitely in the 5,000s by now. So
Yeah. Well, that's pretty good. Well, this is the HP podcast where we talk about crazy stuff that happens at work and sometimes video games. We also talk about Hulk Hogan giving us a $5 super chat and saying, "Well, let me tell you something, brother. Ginger Mania, Mare Mania, and Maple Syrup Mania are all running wild, dude." I don't know who he's referring to with any of those three things. But I digress.
I think I'm the maple one.
I think maybe you're the Maple one, yeah. But thank you, Hulk Hogan, for the $5 super chat. We appreciate it. If you want to help support this show, you can go over to patreon.com/handsomephantom and support us for as little as $1 or more a month. You get all the episodes ad-free and early if you're on audio, and if you're on video, well, there's really no downside to being on video except YouTube ads, I guess. And then, of course, if you're here live with us every Tuesday night at 7 o'clock Eastern, we appreciate that very much as well. I really expected, guys, when we started doing this show on video and doing it live, that we'd have more people come over from the audio feeds. Like, we still have significantly more audio listeners than we have video watchers. And I guess I understand that because, like, you're not going to throw on YouTube while you're driving down the road on your way to work, right? It's just interesting.
Fine.
I really expected...
fine. Yeah.
I wonder if it would be different if we had launched the show. Because by the time we went to video, we had done like 250 episodes of the show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's got to be part of it. I don't
It's
know.
definitely
Anyway,
a late edition.
yeah. We appreciate you guys, no matter how you are consuming the podcast, as long as you consume the podcast. You can also join us on Discord over at handsomephantom.com/Discord. Hang out with us and all of the roughnecks we got going out there. It's a wild time. Why are you pointing at me?
Brandon's in two places at once. It's amazing.
What?
He's in the chat.
Oh,
Yeah.
I couldn't see that.
Anyways.
Yeah. You guys want to talk about some video games?
Yeah.
On to our first story here. According to Insider Gaming, well, not according to them specifically, but this is from them. Nintendo has explained why the Nintendo Switch 2 is so expensive. It was recently revealed during a feature-length showcase, and one of the most widely discussed topics on the back of the thing was the cost of the device and the games. With the $450 base price point and games that could cost as much as $90. I'm still not sure they're 100% right on that messaging, but that's okay. Fans were understandably distressed and concerned about their wallets. In a recent interview that was held before the Nintendo delayed U.S. pre-orders because of tariffs, and by the way, they've now delayed other pre-orders as well, not just U.S. pre-orders, a Nintendo VP explained why the price point is so high for the Switch 2. It was an effort to justify what I think is a relatively understandable price tag. That's the author's writing. The recent interview between Polygon and Bill Trennan, Nintendo's VP of Player and Product Experience, was a telling sit-down that revealed Nintendo's innermost thoughts about the price. Number one, we're unfortunately living in an era where I think inflation is affecting everything. And it's affecting everything from day-to-day prices. It's affecting technology and things of that nature. I also think we're seeing a lot of smart devices now. I wish they were not nearly as expensive as they are. They're certainly a lot more expensive than they were when they originally came out in the mid-2000s. I don't know if that's true. So as you add more technology into a system, especially in this day and age, that drives additional cost. He also said the price of video games has been very stable for a long time. I actually have an ad on my phone that I found from 1993 when Donkey Kong Country was released on the SNES at $59. Yada, yada, yada. So the real answer here is inflation, which I think a lot of us probably could have guessed, and the rising cost of electronics. But what do you think about the fact that we see a lot of consoles come and go? We see a lot of technology come and go. But very often do we see a senior level employee of a company, especially Nintendo, coming out and attempting to justify to people why the price is higher than they expected. Dave, I know you were really, for lack of a better word, I'll just say butthurt about the Nintendo Switch 2's price. What do you think?
I'm glad we're talking about this because I still have sticker shock, but I think it helps to put people like me or people who have the reaction that I do or I did, it helps to put in perspective why this is the way it is. And I think the perfect way to look at it is if the PlayStation 6 was launched today, how much would it cost? The Pro just launched late last year and it currently costs $900 Canadian or roughly $650 US. So we can probably safely assume that if a PlayStation 6 launched today with new technology, new distribution, all that kind of stuff that goes into a new piece of hardware, the Switch 2 probably doesn't look all that bad. So the sticker shock is definitely a good demonstration of what inflation actually does.
By the way, Dave.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I cut you off. I would add to that that's the PS5 Pro, and it launched, 6 months ago or more? Maybe not quite that long. I would be willing to bet if it were, one, that they aren't charging as much as they probably felt like they should have, and two, if it were today, that price would be even higher.
Yeah. So I think it does a good job of demonstrating inflationary sticker shock. But what it also does is it demonstrates how little disposable income people have at this time. And with the economic uncertainty going on, when people see price tags like this and they, we automatically compare to the Switch 1. That's just, it doesn't make sense. It's not logical, but that's just what our brains do. So, considering people have a lot less disposable income when the Switch compared to when the Switch 1 came out, I think these reactions aren't unwarranted. It's also a good demonstration of, yeah, prices have inflated, but salaries haven't. So I'm not making X amount of more dollars compared to when I was when the Switch 1 came out. So it's not like there's been that adjustment. I have had personally cost of living adjustments, but a lot of people haven't, and it hasn't really been in line with inflation. So it kind of demonstrates both sides of the coin, and it is an interesting It's an interesting piece of foreshadowing to what it's going to look like when that PlayStation 6 does come out. Because I made the comparison last week that to me, a Nintendo Switch is a secondary console. My PlayStation is my primary. For some people, it might be a PC, but that's what you're competing with. So, you know, we assume that the PlayStation 6 is going to be a more traditional console, whereas there's a lot of rumblings around Microsoft of it being less traditional. Maybe that's an opportunity to kind of change what the concept of a console really is, because based on these prices, it's going to be probably $1,000, and a lot of people are going to struggle with that. I think the other things that you have to kind of keep in mind is someone like me, and I think a lot of other people are struggling with this too. The LCD screen feels like a downgrade. The it feels like an iterative kind of console over the Switch, and you know, we always talked about the approach would be if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And that's a great risk-free approach, but it also comes with some cons in that people don't see the same value. It doesn't look like a shiny new box. It's just a step up. So I do kind of understand the reactions, but the inflationary piece, I think kind of puts it in perspective. The other thing that came from this article that kind of I picked out a little bit and was the guy they interviewed, I think his name was Trinan, was saying the price of smart technology has gone up. And there was a piece of the hardware reveal that kind of made me raise an eyebrow a little bit, and it was the voice command functionality in the Switch too. I think you could actually talk to your Switch and tell it what to do. I don't know if that's a part of the dock or part of the actual console itself, but I'm kind of thinking like, is there a smart speaker type technology in this thing? And if so, like, who asked for that? And how much of that, which to me is kind of a convenience piece, it's kind of a gimmick thing, but how much is that driving the cost? And we don't really need that to play games. It's just sort of it's a whistle sort of thing. So I think about what design decisions went into this console that drove price and how they're actually there to enhance the experience as a video game console. So yeah, I don't know. I think the price is justified, but I think the reaction is also justified from consumers who aren't being logical, but a group of consumers are not inherently logical. They're reactionary. So this shouldn't be a surprise.
By and large, I agree with you, Dave. But let me ask you this: if this console launched for $300, would you blink?
Like blink in making a purchasing decision?
Yeah, like would it affect your thought process? The reason I ask, and I don't mean to call you out specifically, although you know you're the one being a bitch here.
So sorry, 300 USD. So we're calling that what, $450?
Canadian, you mean? Yeah.
Yes, I'm guessing. No, yeah. I that to me is kind of what I expected.
Well, my reason for asking is because even though it sucks, if you look at 2017 and you look now, $300 and $450 are almost equivalent. So, like, realistically, it's not adjusted for our wages, not adjusted for whatever, but adjusted for what money is worth now as compared to what it was when the Switch 1 came out, they're the same price. So that's why I just can't get around, like, yeah, it's $450, but that's not really worth to Nintendo what it was worth. It's worth the same amount as the Switch 1, which is kind of a good and bad thing to me. One, I wanted them to make a more high-end console that would cost more, honestly. I don't think this is it necessarily. I think it's got some advances, obviously, but it's a bad thing because, like, realistically, they may even be making a few dollars less because of the inflation rates. So I understand the complaints about the pricing, but I also understand that, like, it's not realistically any different other than the fact that we're all still making about the same amount of money in dollars, not in value. But Brandon, what do you think? You're a notorious Nintendo lover. We would expect you to have something positive to say here.
No, I have a pretty hot take as far as the discourse on this goes. Don't buy it. If it's too expensive, don't buy it.
That's fair.
I'm a little bit more concerned with my egg prices than this. If we
eat a lot of eggs, dude.
if we stopped buying vapes for a couple weeks, if we stopped smoking Marlboro Reds and buying a case of beer every week, multiple times a week, maybe we would be able to afford the Switch too. I just think it's crazy how much shit this kicks up when this is so clearly a luxury item. I understand that people want the newest and best thing, but if you want the newest and best thing, it's always been a thing. If you want something that's new, it's going to be expensive. That's the way it goes. I don't like it. I agree with what Dave's saying. I think the bigger piece that is really shining to me right now is it feels like more because wages haven't been more. And I'm not going to get into that, but I think that's really the heart of the problem and why people are complaining. And I understand that that's justified. But at the same point, unless you're independently wealthy or, don't have a mortgage to pay for or kids, it's just like pick your battles. You know what I mean? I spend my money on a couple things, and this is going to be a couple things. You know what I mean? It just is what it is, man. I will say, notably, with how expensive, the whole console market is getting right now, PCs just keep looking better. And I'm not saying that's a cheap alternative. What I am saying is that if you want something that's more expensive on PC, you can get it, but you don't need it. There's a lot more options. So as we continue to blur the lines between what these consoles are and we're getting closer to PC stuff, I would just encourage anybody. Now, mind you, I can't play Mario Kart Worlds on PC. Yeah, I know that. Okay. But you can go on Steam and get games on sale every single day of the year. So, I don't know, man. People love the bitch, and they get clicks for it. So, I'm not happy about it. I'm going to make that perfectly clear. But I also think that we just like to scream into the void because people scream back that agree with our opinions. So, it's whatever, dude. I think it's fine. I don't like it, but I don't think it's necessarily unjustified, is what I'm saying.
Was it the Xbox One that was $300, and then you went to the Series? Yeah, the 360 and the Xbox One were both $300, and then they jumped to $500 with the Series X, if I'm remembering correctly. The PS4 was $400, and they jumped to $500. I guess it's not unprecedented for a console generation to be significantly more, but I understand and agree that it does suck because and I think that the real issue that Nintendo has here with the Switch is that it doesn't feel like Nintendo did not position themselves with the Switch 1, with the Switch 2, with any console they've ever made except for the NES as a future-facing console, right? And that's, I think, where the real burr in the butt crack is. Is that a phrase? That's a phrase people say, right? Burr in the butt crack.
Band-Aid in the potato salad.
Yeah. That's a Band-Aid in the potato salad if I ever heard of one. But I think that's what it is we're all like, oh, this is a happy little, goofy device that we, but when I think about the fact that our phones now are retailing MSRP for $1,400, and we usually hold on to those for 2 years. Not that most people pay the $1,400, but
Ben, you can get something for $450 that plays games that look like fucking PS3 games. Isn't that great?
Yeah, but see, that argument doesn't hold water with me. Because if you're buying a Switch, if you're buying a Nintendo product for anything but Nintendo games primarily, you're the problem.
Oh, shots fired at Dave maybe there. Indirectly, he might have caught a stray.
That's fine.
Cyberpunk's coming.
If you're buying a Switch 2 because you're really excited to play Cyberpunk,
I got news for you, pal.
You shouldn't have done that.
Remember, we talked about it last week how yes, it's shocking, and we've seen it quite often where there's a launch price, but if you kind of set the price a certain way, you can leave yourself room for price drops. And we know Nintendo hardware has always had really long and successful sales tails. They're not booms right out of the gate and then it just kind of goes right down. So I think
even the Wii U was fairly consistent with 0 sales the whole time it was out.
I think, but you're right. I mean, they could shoot themselves in the foot right out of the gate. And the other way they could have gone about this is, take that hit on the consoles initially because you're making money on the software. That's what you're here for, and we know the software price is going to go up, and people are going to complain about it at first. But at the end of the day, Nintendo software does not go down in price, so make your money there. But they've chose to go this route, and maybe in a year they drop the price. Maybe before launch they drop the price. Who knows? But
Why?
Yeah.
Because money.
In fairness, I don't think anyone since the 360 generation has launched their console at a loss, like for the hardware. I know that used to happen, but I don't think that's the methodology anymore. Like the PS4 was definitely not. They definitely didn't take a hit. They may have only made $2, but it was like at least equal. The PS5, I think a breakdown showed that it was pretty much almost exactly $500. Actually, I think it was exactly the $400 for the digital version and like a few dollars short of $500 for the physical, or for the one with the CD drive. So like, I don't know if that is a sustainable business model anymore, or maybe it is sustainable, but they've just chosen not to do it. But you're right, Dave. That is an option they could have taken for sure, because they literally, like everybody does, but they literally control the market on what games are going to be, on what the attach rate's going to be. If you're buying a Nintendo console, there's very few third-party manufacturers that make accessories for it that you can buy from that are reliable. So you've got to buy them from Nintendo. So like they could have done it, but I also understand, like, why would you want to if you don't have to? Chatter, we cooked, says the most glorious ginger in chat. What's going on here?
I don't know, dude. I finally linked my YouTube account, so I'm just having a bit of fun in chat today. We've only been doing this for how long?
A couple years now. Alex Dice twice a little bit ago says, if you can't afford, I think he meant can't. He said can't, but he meant can't. If you can't afford the Switch 2, we have a product for you. It's called the Switch 1. I saw this in a brief tweet or something today that Doug Bowser said that.
Yeah, but he's not wrong, dude.
No, I agree with you,
on,
but why would you say that?
That's what I'm trying to say, though, about the whole, like, worry about eggs thing, is that, like, dude, so you can't get Mario Kart, right? Let's just be perfectly honest about the new Mario Kart. Yeah, it looks good. Yeah, there's free roam. But Dave even said it last week. Play 8. It's great.
Yeah.
You could buy all these maps. So, like, at the end of the day, it's like, if you want the new thing, I'm going to go back to it. You got to pay the new price. And that's always been the barrier for entry. Okay?
Well, with Nintendo, if you want the old thing, you still have to pay the new price, because
Exactly.
Mario Kart 8, I guarantee you, is still $60 MSRP.
Bro, it's crazy, bro.
Yeah.
we should amend that and say, if you think it's too expensive, just use an emulator.
Right.
Oh,
Yeah.
shit. The
Go play
police
Power
just
World.
bust down Dave's door live.
Derek O says, maybe if they drop the price like the 3DS, the Switch 2 ambassadors will get the should have been in a pack-in game for free. Two things there. One, I do remember when they dropped the 3DS price. I remember the first event, I think that they showed, the first public event, they showed off the Switch, the 3DS was at PAX 2011, PAX East, and I was there. And I remember seeing it and thinking, this is awesome, but the price is too high. And I think everybody thought that, apparently, because they lowered that price, and it brought a lot of goodwill. A lot of goodwill. As a matter of fact, Hriz, H-Bomb says, I'm a Nintendo ambassador because they lowered it. That's totally true. Ed Cassidy says, buying a Switch for a big graphic games, I have a bridge for you. I don't want to write it off. It seems like some of the games are going to be, maybe not like they're going to be running on your other consoles or your PC, but the Switch 2 looks like it's got a little more power under the hood than we were expecting. Not hoping, but expecting. I could be wrong with my recollection. This is why you should play. Says, I could be wrong with my recollection, as Nintendo has sold their console hardware at a small profit. I would agree with that. I think you're correct. I would venture a guess that they're making less of a small profit in 2025 than they were in 2017.
Even if they are making a profit, I think the console is still a loss leader, and that, especially with Nintendo.
Yes.
And I think that's the point. But
right.
I don't know.
Yep.
But sorry, Radek, he brings up something interesting. So today they announced that pre-orders in Canada would also be delayed to align with the U.S. Delay on pre-orders. I want, that must have been because a lot of Americans would have somehow pre-ordered over here and then shipped them down, or had to be something to do with that, right?
Well,
We're kind
I
of
think that's-
connected by land.
So I'm
I think
saying-
that's definitely a piece of it. But I also think it's a piece of it that any country, but especially what the US does, affects the global market. So like if there has to be a dramatic price change in the US, it's going to affect everywhere, just like everywhere affects the US.
Dave,
not in this case.
Dave,
But okay.
this completely foils, Dave, our plan to smuggle in hundreds of thousands of units.
I can't talk about this, guys. Stop it. Stop it.
Anything else on the Switch's price, or anything related to it?
No, I think the bottom line is if you don't want it, don't buy it. Move on.
Yeah. And I think, Dave, what you said last week and what I've seen a lot of people echo since then is like, for you, it's a second console. There are many people who it's a second console for. All three of us. It's a second or third console for that matter. And so, yeah, it may not be worth it at all. And if that's the case, then that's fine. But there are people out there who it's their primary console. And those people are hurting the worst because they don't, if they want to play new generation of games, they don't have another option because that's what they play. They play Nintendo, or they play specifically their Switch, or they got into gaming with the first Switch or whatever. So it sucks that for us that we may choose not to play the new generation, but for them it's like, well, what else am I supposed to do?
Those people should learn a lesson. Pay $50 more and get a better console.
But does it have a Mario on it?
Dude, fuck Mario, dude.
How dare you? All right, let's move on.
The bad man is gone. He was about to light up chat.
I was actually gonna.
One more thing. Derek O says, "Oh, we can't talk about this. Dave gonna set up a model train to smuggle Switch 2 across the border."
Dude, the Patrick Swayze Express? Is that what you're talking about?
That's what he's talking about.
Hell yeah, bro. I almost made that reference, but I didn't think anybody would get it.
This is a little bit of an older story, but it's still, we were going to cover it last week, but it's still relevant this week. Because there isn't, surprisingly, when Nintendo announces a new console, not a lot of other news comes out. And if there is other news that comes out, people are trying to bury it, like another story we'll get to later. Says, from Tech for Gamers, while sales for AAA games like Indiana Jones and the Great Circle and Forza Horizon 5 may be well beyond surprising on PlayStation, the same cannot be said for every other Xbox game. A new report reveals underwhelming sales for titles like Hi-Fi Rush, Pentiment, and other AA titles on PlayStation. Hi-Fi Rush, weird that nobody bought that. It's really weird. Xbox needs to change its multi-platform strategy for smaller AA titles to replicate the success these games achieve on their own platform. Except for Hi-Fi Rush. Xbox needs to treat these titles differently, separate from the heavy hitters. Guys, I like Hi-Fi Rush. I just don't think anyone actually played it. According to a new report, Obsidian's Pentiment is the worst-selling title from the data with only 16,000 copies sold on PS5. Meanwhile, Tango Gameworks' Hi-Fi Rush has also struggled in sales, managing just 137,000 copies. Grounded has performed significantly better, selling almost 500,000 units, and currently is at 432,000 copies. Thank you, Dave. At the top, Sea of Thieves is the only title with sales above 1 million units. The game has sold 1.8 million copies on PS5. Additionally, the report reveals sales for Age of Mythology Retold, standing at 41,000 copies sold. However, a verdict on its performance can't be reached yet since the title was just recently ported. Guys, what are some factors to this, in your opinion?
Okay, so what do we notice about the games that have sold more? Is there one thing that the games that have sold more have in common?
They're new.
What else?
Multiplayer?
Yep.
Well, not Indiana Jones.
Well, excluding that, the highest selling ones are multiplayer. I don't know, man. I just feel like the thing is, with some of these games, whenever you have old things, right, and you bring them over to a new platform, you can't expect them to perform as well. You just can't. And you know, you got to put in a little bit of extra work, and I think that's kind of what they're alluding to, is they maybe need to push it a little bit more, have a little bit more marketing. But the reality of the situation is it probably very similar, in a very similar way, mirrors the current performance of the titles that are already on the other platforms. And so how do you kind of overcome that? I'm asking you guys, because I I can't even spitball that. I think there is something to note about the multiplayer piece. I feel like that's an important factor, that even if you have an old game, if it has a multiplayer, people are more apt to jump in because it's not an old story, if that makes sense, in my opinion. But I don't know how they kind of overcome this sort of thing. Um, Aside from just making cheddar on top of, the icing, that's a saying. Uh, I don't know what they do. I really don't.
Is that like Band-Aids in the salad or whatever
It's
I said?
like the cheddar on top of yeah,
Yeah.
the cheddar on top of the icing, baby.
Dave, what do you think?
I don't think these numbers are bad at all.
Yeah.
So Pentiment quick search, it sold around 215,000 copies on Steam when it came out in 2022. So an extra 14,000 copies on a brand new console 3 years after launch. That's a nice little spike. And I think the decision not to really market these games was intentional. I feel like these games, and I'm more looking at the AA ones, so Grounded, Pentiment, Sea of Thieves. I think they're part of a control. This is a an attempt for Microsoft to set the bar. We know this is going to be their strategy going forward, and this strategy did not lean entirely on, and it wasn't all built around the success of Pentiment and Hi-Fi Rush on PlayStation. I think this was part of a control group. It was a pilot, and I think it did well because these are fairly older games. The investment required to get them on a new platform was predictably low. So this is all found money to Microsoft. And since these initial batch of AA games came, they've had several other successes. And I think when Forza Horizon launches, I think it's next month or in June, that's going to be huge on PlayStation. And I don't even know if they're going to market that. But I think this has been nothing but a success so far for Microsoft. And I don't know. Sony is probably happy to see software succeeding on their console. It's more quality software that's coming over to them that they haven't had to make themselves, and but they're probably a little bit nervous because it's selling really well on Game Pass, and then they're selling full price copies on PlayStation. So yeah, I don't think this is underperformance at all. This is really good for Microsoft.
Yeah, I agree. I think by and large, with the exception of probably Sea of Thieves and Forza, most of these games, I can't imagine they took a whole lot of time to port. And if you look at a game like Sea of Thieves, 1.8 million copies at $40 minimum a pop because they sold like $80 editions. And by the way, as someone who plays Sea of Thieves, the 3 weeks after that game launched on PS5, the amount of people who had the $80, the skin you got if you bought the $80 version was astronomical. So a lot of people just went ahead and bought that like higher end one. But anyway, 1.8 million copies times minimum $40 is a lot of money. Now, granted, they had some server costs, they had some other things to make the game compatible because it's an online game. But Pentiment, change the glyphs on the controller input, remap the achievements to trophies, ship it. I'm being a little bit reductive. I understand it's not actually that little, but it's very minimal compared to the amount of money, even on a 14,000 copy game that they sold. And as Dave mentioned, if Microsoft really is profitable selling these games on their own console alone, which is up for debate, but if they are, which they say they are, then it's just icing on top of the Band-Aid, like Brandon said.
That is what I said.
It's just so I think it's good for them. Here's the thing. The reason these aren't selling as much, one, they're not day and date. That means a lot, especially when they're already on PC as well, because a lot of people who have PlayStations also play on PC, but not a lot of people necessarily own PlayStation and Xbox. They own Xbox and PC, or they own PC and PlayStation. Not as many people own all three. But yeah, they're not day and date, and they're coming out without a lot of fanfare. Like, I didn't realize, even though the date was known, the indie was out for like a month now, or more than a month. Even though I knew it was coming, so like it just didn't didn't show up in my whatever feeds I'm looking at apparently. So I think the numbers are pretty good. Now I think eventually Xbox is going to get to a point where they're pushing games day and date on PlayStation, and that'll be the real determination. If they start selling more at launch on PlayStation than they do on Xbox, it's gonna be an interesting time.
Ooh.
Any other thoughts?
Yikes.
Thanks for filling the silence, guys. Appreciate it.
You know what I say? You can't goon in the salad.
You can't get in the salad.
I don't know about that one, dude. I don't know about that one.
This is why the train is why I was trying to like
that's filling in the noise.
Yeah.
Where are we dropping, boys? We're dropping on the train.
I might have told this story before. I know I've probably told at least Brandon. I was playing Fortnite with one of my friends, and she was like, "I didn't think the train was over here," or something like that. And I was like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "The train. I hear the train," and I was like, "That's at my house." She was like, "That train sounds so real. It sounds fake." Like, I was like, "It's real, very much real."
Trust me.
Another story that is a little bit older, but it's okay. IGN reports Ubisoft has created a subsidiary company based on its Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, and Tom Clancy Rainbow Six brands with £1.16 billion, or approximately $1.25 billion investment from Tencent. The news comes hot on the heels of the launch of Assassin's Creed Shadows, which just passed the 3 million player mark. Ubisoft suffered a number of high-profile flops, layoffs, studio closures, and game cancellations in the run-up to Shadow's release, and there is an enormous pressure on it to succeed after the company's share price hit an historic low. They said this new subsidiary, valued at $4.3 billion and based in France, will focus on building game ecosystems designed to become truly evergreen and multi-platform. Tencent's stake amounts to 25%. They said they will focus on the development of its Ghost Recon and the Division franchises and support and grow its top performing games, etc., etc., etc. A note: I'm pretty sure I saw a story, and I don't know if it's actually happened, or if it was just being discussed, that a group of or many shareholders were filing suit on this because they didn't want to just hold stock in the Ubisoft that doesn't own Assassin's Creed fully, or that doesn't own all the other stuff that makes money fully. But I don't know if that's actually happened yet or not. But I wanted to get you guys' thoughts on this. Dave, since you've moved fully over from being a Nintendo shill to being an Ubisoft shill, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think first of all, we got to give, maybe we don't have to, but I think Assassin's Creed Shadows deserves a little bit of love. It seems to be doing quite well. This game, a few months ago was delayed, and there was a lot of people saying this game in trouble. Ubisoft really needs Assassin's Creed Shadows to do well, and it seems to be performing pretty well. 3 million players. It's probably closer to 4 million now. And I think I saw it topped the US sales charts, or came in second behind Monster Hunter Wilds. So yeah, good for Ubisoft for getting one right. And I hope what Ubisoft has learned from the past 5 years is that licensed IP is not instantly a home run. Like, you can't just grab a Star Wars IP or Avatar and think that you're ultimately going to get a strong return. But there are a lot of people who love The Division and love Rainbow Six. Like, look how long that game's been going on. And if instead of focusing the time that they did on whatever Outlaws was and whatever Avatars was, which were fine games, Ubisoft is good at something, and I wish they would focus on what that is. And Brandon's shaking his head, but I mean, the sales numbers on Valhalla, which was critically panned, disagree with you. People like what Ubisoft puts out there. So, and I just wish they would focus on that, because they have a lot of really good IP. And I think the days of Ubisoft, I don't know if they were ever really super creative, but they were creative enough to sell millions and millions of copies of several different franchises. But I think those days are probably behind them, and the involvement of Tencent would only help to kind of solidify that suggestion, because Tencent doesn't really seem to invest in creativity. They invest in revenue generators, and a 25% controlling stake of a piece of Ubisoft, whatever this is, certainly sounds significant. So it sounds like whatever this new arm is going to focus on that evergreen content. Assassin's Creed is evergreen for them. Rainbow Six is evergreen for them. The Division, hopefully. And I like that approach, because I think Ubisoft is still the kind of company that also wants to have other revenue generators, such as, whatever free-to-play stuff they're going to work on in the future, mobile stuff. And I like that that's going to be hopefully a different part of the company, and this piece is just going to focus on, what Ubisoft is good at. But I do kind of wonder, this Assassin's Creed Infinity thing, like, is that gone? Is that dead in the water? Are we just going to go back to the traditional, one game every couple of years? Yeah, I think I'm never crazy about Tencent getting involved, but I think overall, Ubisoft seems to have survived this, and it sounds like they're starting to refocus, which is what they need to do.
Brandon, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of against the CCP wriggling its arm into anything. I guess with the news we've had over the past year of how Ubisoft is downsizing and kind of honing in on what is best for them as a company, it seems like they grew bigger than their britches. They purchased too many expensive IPs and put out shitty games. I don't think this is Ubisoft in the clear by any means. I'm hoping this is good things for them moving forward. We can't forget about things like, the massive push from everyone in the industry to do free-to-play. Ubisoft's most recent free-to-play, most recent failure was X-Defiant, and that failed miserably. So there are a lot of IP that I like from Ubisoft. I hope that kind of continues, even if it's not the ones that they're specifically interested in, Tencent. But you can't argue with the success of something like Siege and how strong it's still going. Make Far Cry great again. That's all I'm gonna say. Make it good.
Can I just address Boot's comment? I would argue Assassin's Creed already is a live service game. That game is 100% built around a store, and it has been since probably Odyssey. I think the RPG games have been built around stores. So I'd say we're already there, buddy.
Radic says,
Yeah.
but Brandon, wouldn't a gaming industry without Ubisoft be even an industry worth participating in?
You could make a case for it, man.
Yeah.
We'll see how this goes.
They'll be fine. They'll be just fine. I have a feeling it means nothing. It's a nothing sandwich. If anything, it's going to be good. I think, even though I don't like Tencent, Dave has a very good point with them clearly seeing promise in some of their IP, and they're going to invest in that. So this is good, probably.
Let's move on to our last story. Shuhei Yoshida. This is from mpfirst.com. Shuhei Yoshida, the former president of Sony Worldwide Studios and a key figure in PlayStation history, has suggested that in the future, Sony should change its way of thinking and focus less on raw graphical power and more on making the experience unique for its players. He explained that this aspect is crucial in the company's strategy, and although graphical power still needs to be important, the focus should shift towards other elements. He pointed out that the gaming industry has now reached unsustainable development costs, largely due to the race for the most powerful console and the most graphically advanced games possible. I think the story pretty much just further elaborates on that. Boys, I want to hear what you think about what Mr. Yoshida has said. Brandon, let's start with you since you've met the man.
Yeah, the man.
Not
the
that
myth,
that
the
has any
legend.
bearing on the story at all, but
No, it does. He told me all about it.
it's like 8 years ago.
Yeah. Once again, the all-knowing, the all-wonderful Shuhei Yoshida. It makes me even more angry what Jim Ryan did to him, because clearly he has a bit of insight that is crucial and completely in line with the industry as a whole. We've talked for many years about how inflated things are getting in the push for graphical fidelity and high experience blockbuster visuals, and he's getting something that most people with a suit don't understand. The people don't need that necessarily. I'm not saying stop, stop growing the medium. I'm not saying don't push for that sort of thing, but it's not necessary to make a successful game. And that's, I think, what Shu's kind of tapping into here, and something that kind of falls upon deaf ears. I think sometimes with the higher ups, we will sacrifice, substance. We will sacrifice storytelling. We will sacrifice art direction for realism, and that's very, very, very rarely a net positive for the gamer. There are very few instances when I can even think of in my memory where that trade-off has happened and it's benefited the consumer, it's benefited the enjoyer of the medium, and not some perceived notion of revenue increase that isn't true, is a false idea. So
Yeah. Um, Dave's camera's off. I'm not sure if he's alive or not, but I'll just say, uh, we've all harped on it for years, but indie games, man. I mean, indie games are, yeah, a lot of them look great and perform really well and everything, but like that's where the real innovation in games are right now. Not to say there's no innovation in AAA stuff that's big budget and costs a lot of money, but your small development teams, your solo developers, like that's really where I feel we should have more investment in. And full disclosure, I work for an indie publishing platform, but I've thought this. If anybody who's listened to the show for years, you know that already. Like that's been my position, is that I love big AAA games. I love games that cost $300 million. Don't get me wrong. Some of my favorite games are gigantic, or live service or whatever. But like the real treasures, the real sustainability is in high quality but small team games, and sometimes that does cost a little more money. So they have to recruit publishers, but the bloat is overwhelming in the industry right now, and
and
has
it's
been for a decade.
Yeah, and frankly and clearly, based off of what we've seen from the industry, it's not sustainable. So, I mean, that's really what he's touching on in this article, is the how unsustainable it is. But it's
Yeah.
kind of twofold, right? Not only is it beginning to be inefficient as far as ROI goes, but it also is ineffective. So it's like all of the signs are here. Apparently, we just need, the man up top, the OG Shuhei Yoshida, to let everyone know what's going on. So
That's right. Dave, any thoughts on this? I know you had to step away, but
Sorry, I didn't hear your thoughts, but just when I read the article, I kind of felt like, from a fidelity standpoint, I feel like we are hitting a ceiling. Like, how much realistic can, when the technology is being fully utilized and pushed to its limits, like how much more realistic can we get? And it's also like we have to remind ourselves, like, games are supposed to be an escape. We don't want them to be too close to reality unless I'm playing a racing sim or something like that. So I don't know. There has to be a pivot at some point where the focus is on fun rather than, just being the most realistic thing out there. And gaming also, it kind of has to diverge somewhat, where you have like one path that goes towards fun and the other path, which is again more simulation, and that's less about entertainment and more about teaching and stuff like that. So I think Yoshida's onto something, and I think his timing is good too, because there have been many decisions made by Sony over the past several years that seem to be business first decisions rather than gamers. And at the end of the day, a business is always going to make decisions that are going to make them the most money. But it's nice when they appear as though they put the gamer first. And there have been instances where I think Sony's lost sight of that a little bit. So I thought this was a good reminder from the oest of G's themselves, Shuhei Yoshida.
Dave, I know you'll appreciate this. I said while you were gone, all three of us, some of our favorite games of all time are AAA, big budget games. But where this stuff really thrives on creativity versus technological advancement is in the indies. That's the nexus. The nexus? I just want more people to play indies.
Yeah, it's grassroots gaming.
Yeah. Boys, it's that time of the week where we talk about what we have been playing. Who wants to go first? It's up to you guys.
I'll go quick.
All right.
I jumped back into Monster Hunter Wilds to check out Title Update 1, which added Mizutsune. I always have to remember to say the Z before the T. As well as some other stuff. There's a Grand Hub now, and there's Tempered Zoshia or something like that's the hard monster. I fought it once and someone called me a noob when I carded, but I did beat it, so that was cool. But yeah, most of my time with Wilds has been with the Insect Glaive. I spent the first 35 hours in Wilds with my new favorite weapon, which is the Switch Axe, and I never touched my secondary, which was the Insect Glaive. And I know one of the big features of Monster Hunter Wilds was being able to have two weapons and switching between them on the fly. And just in reality, I never felt the need to switch weapons as I played through the main story, all 6 chapters to when the real game starts. So it was funny. I went online and I was reading a Reddit forum, and a lot of people were saying like they felt the same way. And the only utility they got out of having the second weapon was being able to carry 2 elements. So when they're fighting against one monster that's weak against electricity or something, like they just have that on their sacred and they can swap between them. But I wanted to dive into the Insect Glaive because the Insect Glaive versus the Switch Axe is like 2 completely different weapons. It's like a different game. And I've always said that, I love the mobility and the speed and how cool using the Insect Glaive looks, but messing around with a bug pisses me off. For those who don't know, the Insect Glaive is a glaive kind of weapon. It's similar to like Darth Maul's dual-sided lightsaber, but it's really unique because it has this bug that attaches to your arm, and you shoot this bug at the monster, and depending on where the bug hits the monster, that will give you a different buff. So if you hit it in the head, it gives you like a red buff, body is white, and limbs are like pink. And basically what you want to do is get all 3 buffs before you even start attacking, because your move set is so much better when you're fully buffed. And I just hated like having to fuck around and run around the monster and shoot the stupid bug and just hope it lands where I need to before I actually start attacking. But luckily in Wilds they added a new combo where you can just basically stand in front of the monster and you can charge the bug and it will shoot right through the monster and grab 2, or if you have a fully upgraded bug, 3 extracts. So you can get all of your extracts in one and just start attacking. So they made it a little bit easier. And yeah, the Insect Glaive is awesome. I still think I prefer the Switch Axe, but it's nice to have both. And I think I'm done with the game for now. I don't really need to grind like Zoshi or anything like that. I'll just wait until the next title update and jump back in, and maybe later this year we'll have a full DLC. But yeah.
Does Monster Hunter require PlayStation Plus?
I want to say no, because you can play in just like an offline lobby maybe, but I also feel like that might not be the case. But
I think the only thing that doesn't require is some free-to-play games.
Right, but Monster Hunter, I didn't know if it had an offline mode, like that you could play it without other people.
Yeah.
It does,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it does.
Cool.
But you know what, Ben? I'm kind of at a point where I'm just eating PS Plus. Like I haven't deleted it in several months because it's too much of a hindrance. I hate it, but I'm just like I also want to play games without having to ask myself, oh, do I need PS Plus for this? So
Also just buy that year subscription or, a PC.
Yeah, I think the PC is probably the better choice. But I also jumped back into Gran Turismo 7. I've been playing missions, which is a part of the game that I haven't really spent a whole lot of time with. And they're cool because they're all pretty short and they're all very random. They're all on different tracks, different cars, and they just present you with a different challenge. Oftentimes it's get from dead last to the front in like a very specific time. But they are unique enough where they're kept interesting. One of the ones I'm currently stuck on is you have to complete an entire lap with a car that has like 10% fuel left, and the particular track that you're on, I think it's Sardinia, it has a lot of different elevation changes. So there's parts of the track where you're going downhill and then parts where you're going uphill. You cannot keep on the accelerator the entire thing because you run out of gas before the finish line. So you actually have to find areas where you can coast through braking zones, so you can save gas. You also have to play with your fuel mixture to see kind of where you get. But it's really hard, but it's also kind of an interesting exercise in fuel consumption. None of this sounds interesting to most people, but
I think it sounds cool. Yeah.
yeah, it's difficult, but I'm enjoying kind of these unique challenges. So yeah, if you haven't checked out the missions, I definitely suggest you have a look at them because there's some cool stuff in there.
Nice.
But yeah, that's it for me.
Brandon, what about you?
So I streamed for the first time in like a month the other night, and I was having nothing but problems. I was very manic about it. It was the most goblin stream I've ever had, and I think the only person there was Johnny Waffles. But
I tuned in for a little bit while I was doing something else, and you were like messing with your decorations in your room or something.
I don't think I might have been doing that. I don't remember that, but it's very possible.
I'm not making it up. I saw it.
I don't remember. That's what I'm saying. But I like jumped around to 3 different things. I played Portal with RTX for a little bit. I played Dishonored for a little bit. And what I want to say about Grand Theft Auto San Andreas is if you don't have the definitive edition, the plugging a controller in just does not work well unless you want to map every single button that I found. So I gave up on that pretty quick after realizing that. And mostly
is there not a community layout for it or something?
I couldn't figure it out, and I gave up. I was trying to Google it and Reddit it, and I downloaded a mod manager and was trying to download a mod. Anyway,
yeah,
I couldn't figure it out. I'm a little bit slow when it comes to that sort of thing. Yeah. Mostly I played Ready or Not, which was a ton of fun. Ready or Not's a game. It's like a very hardcore tactical. It's almost like a police or SWAT simulator where you go into situations and you try and defuse them and eliminate hostiles and, secure civilians and, gather paraphernalia, stuff like that. So that's been a lot of fun. Would highly recommend this game to anyone, a SWAT simulator or like a really hardcore shooter fan. It's hard as fuck. It's very, very difficult. But some of the mechanics that are in it are really, really cool. Not only just the moment-to-moment gameplay that's very like grounded and serious, but there is an entire command mechanic where you have 2 teams and you have like helmet cams. You could see their point of view while you're doing it. So you could send your team on this door over here. You could send your team on this door over here, and then you could tell them which one to go first, and they can simultaneously like bust open the doors, throw flashbangs in, and you can come in through a third door. Shit like that. So it's very, very cool. Would highly recommend. Don't think it's that expensive. I think it's maybe like 30 or I think it might be $40 full price. But there's a lot of content too. There's 18 levels. They're all very replayable. So 18 out the gate is pretty good for vanilla. But very, very, very replayable. Things go sideways quick in this game. You'll have a crackhead scurry across the hallway and then shoot you in the head, and then you'll, inevitably perish. But it encourages you to do runs over and over again with different techniques, different entry points. And the NPCs are actually pretty interesting. The way they kind of handle you dealing with them, essentially. So, ideally, you get everyone out alive, but in my experience, that very rarely happens when you have somebody pointing a gun at you. So, whether it's me or them, someone's gonna die. But yeah, would recommend. Ready or Not is really awesome. That, and what I will say one more thing about it, you can play, I believe, up to 4 people in multiplayer, which would be, in my opinion, the ideal experience because you would have your whole team. Instead of having to command people around, you would talk to your team, and you could infiltrate buildings. Like, for instance, one of my favorite levels that I've done so far is a rundown area, right? And there's 2 houses, And these meth heads had built a bridge across these two houses with like planks and shit. And then you go out back in a garage and they've built like meth tunnels in the ground. And you have to like clear these meth tunnels that are like dimly lit with your flashlight and shit with the team. It's really fucking cool and like really eerie. Very, very eerie. There's also like especially because in the heroin one, they like have a kid upstairs that's like convulsing and like they've drugged and stuff like that. There's like talent agencies that like these people have a child talent agency, and it's really creepy because they have like painted handprints all over the wall, but it's clearly just like a warehouse that they like hung posters up in and are trying to get kids to come there. So it goes anywhere from that to like cartel stuff. The first mission is at a gas station. There's somebody, I think, trying to stick it up or something. I can't remember. And you got to try and get the people out safe. So, very cool, very, very interesting stuff. And as a fan of a shooter game, period, playing something that's like this hardcore is pretty cool because not a lot of the games I've played that have been shooters have been this grounded, let's say. So,
Yeah, it looks awesome. It's one that I remember seeing when it came out, and I never did pick it up, and then now I just haven't yet. So I'd like to play it at some point. I have it on my watch list because I want to wait till it drops on sale again. I think it's like $50 normally. So
yeah, I was gonna say it was just on sale. I think for like 15 or 20. I should.
Yeah, I know. I should have pulled the trigger on it. No pun intended, but I wasn't thinking about it, so I didn't. For me, I don't have a lot of new stuff. Been playing the Hunt event a decent bit. Boys, I'm halfway through Prestige 8 now.
Hell yeah!
Only 1.5 left to go to meet that resolution. It'll happen. It'll happen,
Damn,
boys.
dude, that's crazy.
It would have happened a lot sooner if I were any good at the game, but you can't always control that. Oh, also, real quick, Derek O earlier asked, "Is Sea of Thieves an extraction shooter?" Yes, it is. By its very definition, it is. You go in, collect loot, and turn them before other people can attack you. That's an extraction shooter, in my opinion. Schedule 1, I've been still playing a little bit of that. I haven't really had as much time to play games in general this week as I have in the past, but Schedule 1 continues to be fun, and it continues to be very chill. It's the game lately I've been booting up when I have like half an hour before I want to go to sleep and just go out and sell some drugs, because why not? Also, I'm 100% confident, even though I don't have any proof for it, that at least one time the DEA has picked up some chatter that they investigated that ended up being about people planning to play Schedule 1 with their buddies. Like, I'm positive of it. It's got to have happened. There's too much drug talk in that game, or about that game, for it not to be picked up by the law enforcement agencies. As they've continued to add add updates. It's still in early access, of course. I did see that someone else was like trying to either sue them or just get it removed because they felt like it took too much of their game, Drug Dealer Simulator, which they're getting review bombed right now. I looked at Drug Dealer Simulator. There's some similarities, but like it's not, in my non-expert opinion, a ripoff of those games. But I digress. And then the only real new thing I've been playing, and I only played it one round, is Mario Party Jamboree. I bought this before, like a week and a half ago, something like that. I've only got to play it one time with the family. So I was really happy. I got it for $40 somehow, and they just announced it would have an upgrade, and so the price has gone up. And I think that same copy, like the same listing I bought from, is up to like $58 now. So I'm pretty happy I bought it when I did. Not even thinking about the Switch 2 reveal. I just went ahead and bought it. But Mario Jamboree is great. My family and I, we've been playing the same Mario Party game. I mean, I've played others as well, but the Mario Party 64 for 30 years now. And my wife was finally like, one night we were playing, and she's like, "Can we? Is there a new Mario Party? Because I'm tired of these mini games. Like I've been playing them for too long." Radic, yes, I will probably purchase the upgrade, even though none of the upgrade features looked that appealing to me for Mario Party Jamboree. But lots of fun, cool new mini games, some different mechanics that maybe have been around for other iterations. I just haven't actually played many Mario Party games for generations of gaming at this point. So we're supposed to play again tomorrow night, me and the wife and kids. Um, it's crazy when you think about 10 turns in that game, that it's really like an hour and a half.
Yeah, it's not set for 90 minutes. It's
That's
crazy.
crazy. And then actually, and I was like, that won't take 90 minutes. It actually took 90
It
minutes.
does.
Yeah.
I literally always think that when I see that it says 90 minutes. I'm like, 10 turns is not that long. And you're halfway through and you're like, oh, we're halfway through already. And then by the end of the 10th turn, it's 90 minutes.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Is 10 the shortest amount of turns you can do?
Yes.
Yeah, I
90
thought so.
minutes is the shortest playthrough, unfortunately. Fortunately and unfortunately, because I feel like 10 turns isn't enough, but I also
Right.
feel like 10 turns is too much. So I really don't know how to like maybe
I think I literally only made it around the board like 1.5 times in 90 minutes.
yeah.
So, or in 10 turns, I guess. Bad rolls on my part. Anyway, that's what I've been playing. Yeah. I don't have anything else to say about that. Boys, I
That's it.
think that brings us to the end of our time.
That's all she wrote.
It's the end as we know it. Everybody out there who's still around, listening, watching live, watching later, we appreciate it. Don't forget you can join us on patreon.com/handsomepanda for as little as $1 a month to help support us. We appreciate that. Ad-free early audio access along with that as well. And you can join the Discord at handsomephantom.com/discord and hang out with us. That's really all we want. We just want friends. Like, if we're being real about it. So that's all anybody wants. Ed Casty says, last 5 turns, every turn has 5 duels because everyone keeps landing on the same spots. That did not happen in my game because we were also spread apart, but I could see that taking even longer. I was playing with an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, my sons, and that could have caused the game to be a little longer than it had to be, but I don't think so. Like, they're pretty good at games. So, all right, that's all she wrote. We're getting out of here. Boys, good night. Thanks for joining me.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for letting me join you, however this works. And we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.